Being a Christian is more than spending an hour in the church on the weekend. My dears, this is the easiest part of being a Christian. You come here for an hour, you sit here, you look at the back of somebody's head, you pray a little bit, you sing a little bit, you are blessed to receive Eucharist, and you leave. Your effectiveness as a Christian is determined by how you interact with one another from one weekend to the next. So when you come to church on the weekend, you get readings. For the readings, you get ideas, values, and principles that if you apply to your life in the coming week, will make you more Christ-like than you were last week. And very simply, that is our goal, is to be Christ-like. So what's the theme of the readings this weekend? Very simply, the overall theme of the readings this weekend is we are called, each of us, to pray for godly wisdom. We're called to pray for godly wisdom. In this rapidly changing world, where many godly values are questioned, our commitment as Christians is to live in the fidelity and the faithfulness to God's original plan as revealed to us by Jesus Christ, by his words and by his life. From the beginning of time, in every nation, there has been a battle between the morals and values and principles of God/Jesus Christ and the morals and values and principles of the predominant culture in which we live. And they're very, very different. Moses, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos, all the prophets continuously pointed out the difference between the morals and values and principles of God or Jesus and the morals and values and principles of the predominant culture in which they live. They did it at the risk of their lives. Jesus sent out 12 to teach his ways to the world. In every state preamble of the Constitution, in all 50 states, God is mentioned. Asking the favor of God, grateful to God for our freedom, through divine goodness. In 1849, the state of California preamble said this: "We, the people of the state of California, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom in order to secure and to preserve its blessings, do establish this Constitution. Therefore, we are a godly nation." Or are we? Or are we? Ingrid Bergman, famous movie star. Y'all remember her? Ingrid Bergman? Academy Award. Great lady. Everybody loved her. She had an affair with Roberto Rossellini, an Italian movie director. She was kicked out of Hollywood, had to move to Italy, never made another movie. Tell me, what do you have to do today to get kicked out of Hollywood? Maybe be a Christian, perhaps? That better be God calling. Gone with the Wind. The movie was banned in all the Eastern Catholic cities of the United States. Why? One line at the end. You all know the line. "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." What kind of words and language do you hear on television today, on the radio, in the movies? What kind of behavior do you see? 10 years ago, if I would have told you what you would see on television today, you would have said, no, not possible. Not possible. There was a young lady who was the valedictorian of her class in Maine. Before she gave her address, she was forced to sign a piece of paper that said she will not mention prayer or God in her talk. She signed it. She stood up in front of the people after a long introduction of her talents and abilities, stood there for a minute, and then sneezed. And the entire student body stood up and said, "God bless you." Prayer in school. Many years ago, a woman was offended by prayers in schools. And she set out to eliminate prayer in schools, and she really did a great job. And we all sat around and said, oh goodness, isn't that awful? Isn't that awful? TV and movies. Your children, your grandchildren are watching such garbage on television, and they're being infected by declining morals and values, which you can't even believe exist today. One of the major news networks sponsored a golf tournament. They had high school children, youngsters, repeating the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Twice. Both times, the narrator talked over under God. Not once, twice. Letters, emails went to the station. The Monday night newscaster made the statement. We got a lot of complaints about this. If this offended you, we apologize. Not sufficient. Thursday, 2 paragraphs from the leaders of that network apologized, saying that it was not done purposely. It was some underling that made the decision to talk over that. That same network interviewed the wife of a SEAL. Her husband had been killed in action. And the interviewer said to her, tell me, what do you want your children to remember about their father? And she said, I want them to remember that he loved Jesus. They repeated that interview several times during the day. What do you think they left out? Simply an accident. There are cemeteries across the country that are starting to put up signs. No preachers, no prayers during the burial. And we sit around and say, oh, isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? I remember a few years ago, I was in San Francisco. It was a big demonstration about a big concrete cross that's in the Golden State Park. Many of you probably have seen it. People objected to seeing that cross in that park. Now, they didn't have to go where the cross was, but they objected one of the cross torn down. Had been there, I don't know, 50 years? So my thought was this. How can you object to a cross that you occasionally see when you're driving by the parks and still live in a city called San Francisco or San Jose or Santa Ana? What we need to do, if you tear down the cross, change the names of the cities. San Francisco becomes Frank. San Jose becomes Joe. San Diego becomes Jim. Santa Elena becomes Helen. Santa Rosa becomes Rose. How could you complain about a cross and live in cities that are named after saints? There are people dedicated to eliminating God and any sign of God from our country.